So I'm going to talk to you about all here, and what I'm going to focus on is how do you collect a load of art for a court that connects with the users and that is meaningful and that reflects them in some way. And when I say users for Heidelberg Court, there were a lot of different users. There was the judiciary, there was the staff, there were people who come from across Melbourne to be at court. And I'm also going to mention the Heidelberg community, particularly the West Heidelberg community, which is culturally diverse and which also has a big Aboriginal community. So how do you curate art that is going to reflect and connect and be meaningful to all those different groups? What I'm going to just talk about is a few of the questions I had to grapple with and some of the reasons I made the choices I made. So that's the space before we let rip on it. The space was a new space. It was architecturally designed, and the judiciary and the staff were really pleased with it. Like any good space, it was affecting the mood. There were less code blacks, and everyone was really happy with it. However, when I walked in, I just felt really confronted by it. There were security guards, there were scanners. My things got taken out of my bag, and I told I could have them when I got back. There were chairs that were nailed to the ground in rows. There were very muted greys, blacks, whites. It just felt authoritarian, it felt confronting, it felt clinical. And it also, me and Laila walked around together going, where are we going to put the art? It wasn't designed for art, so that was going to be a challenge as well. When I started talking to users of the space, they reiterated the same kind of feelings. But they also said the one thing that kept coming back was, we have to wait here for a very long time, and there's nothing to do and there's nothing to look at. So I knew that we wanted to make it more engaging for people. But before that, I had some quite big questions to think about. The first is, do artists want to show their work in court? I think it is a really big question, and I was thinking particularly about the Aboriginal community, but all communities. You know, a lot of people have a really negative experience of court, and if you have a lot of your community incarcerated by the system, do you want to show your art in there? What I did was, with every single artist I approached, I had that conversation, and sometimes we had a series of conversations about it. And I think we have to respect that sometimes people don't want to show their work in such a space, and that's fine. The next question was, should non-Aboriginal people, like myself, be curating Aboriginal artworks? Well, my answer is no. I'm English. I've only lived here for 12 years. I'm not Aboriginal. I don't have any culture or knowledge, and I don't have the right to choose what work goes on the wall. I just don't. So how was I going to get around this? Well, first of all, me and Laila sort of followed protocol. We went and talked to the Wurundjeri elders, and they were incredibly supportive and really wanted to be involved, and they really guided us and advised us on what we could and couldn't do. And I also then had a really amazing steering group of Aboriginal people who also guided me and advised me, and who I could check in with regularly, and who really suggested what we should put in. And I want to talk about two artists especially. One was Natasha Corrigan, who was a West Heidelberg-based Aboriginal artist who worked for a place called Barwon and Beak, which is a gathering space in West Heidelberg. And she was really keen to make some possum skin cloaks. But when I got to the contracting stage, I said, can you curate the Barwon and Beak works? And that just worked so much better, so that it wasn't me doing it, which would have been really inappropriate. But she was actually able to select all the artworks and really think about culture and story and the families that were involved, and make really, really good choices that everyone in the community was really happy with. The other artist I'm going to talk about is Farbros, who's a Wurundjeri artist. And he was collaborated with Tom Civil, who's just up here on the wall over there, to make a mural. But Ash became much more than just the mural painter. He really was the man who held the knowledge for us and really embedded the artwork in culture and history and knowledge. And I felt really honoured that he could share some of that knowledge with me. But he also just really transformed the space. He was going to make the court as Aboriginal as it could possibly be. And I'll show you some photos in a minute, you know, and Tom and Ash and myself worked really hard for about 10 days to really just try and transform the space. But we would have kept going. I had to kind of say stop in the end. There's no more money and no more time, but there's more to do, you know, and I think the bits that work best are when we've really transformed that space into something else. What I just want to talk about a little bit is my role. So my role and Laila's became less as curators and more as holders of the project. So, you know, our role was to listen, to connect, to take guidance, to respond sensitively. And I think what we've ended up with is a really, really strong project. And it feels a bit like the People's Choice curation project. There is something for everyone, but it does hold together really nicely. And there's some real collector's items. There's, you know, really established artists. There's community artists, there's emerging artists, and there's, you know, school kids. And there's also some really interesting collaborations between different groups. So I think I've got about a minute left to talk. So what I'm going to do, those were kind of the big questions which I think helped me kind of do the right thing and choose the right work that was going to be meaningful, that was going to reflect the community, that was going to connect to the community. And what I'm going to just show, I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour now of the artworks. And with each artwork or group of artworks, there's a word. And those are the choices I made to make sure that, again, I was reflecting and connecting and being meaningful for the community. So the first is transforming space. This mural is about the length from here to there, I guess, and it goes around walls and round lifts and all kinds of things. So there's just a few details, but you can see it kind of really changes the feeling of the space. This is a bit of a favourite. This is the entrance to the Curry Court, and normally there's actually possum skin cloaks hanging there, but they're taken down for the Curry Court meeting and they're placed on, they're kind of like long runners. They're placed on the table. So when we took photos, the Curry Court was actually meeting, so they're not there at the moment. Ash was just great. We talked about what was going to be there, and he just said, let's make it like a cave. And so we kind of just made it kind of these deep, rich red browns, and it's gone down really well. Next word, art you can touch. We wanted things that were sensual and soft and that you can actually go up to and feel. Art representing diverse communities. Art which tells stories, history, and culture. Art which makes you laugh and think. Art made through collaboration. This was a collaboration between established Melbourne lighting designer and local craft women. This is just a tiny detail of a work by Shah Sawari. Art which pleases and uplifts. Art which doesn't ostracize. And I'm going to finish with this quote by Natasha Corrigan, because I think she really sums up what we were trying to do. And it says, I've got it down here, I'm going to read it from there because I don't think I can see it from over there. I hope the works I have created for the court connect people to culture and helps give them a sense of comfort and reassurance. Many of our people go through the court process feeling down during this difficult time in their lives. So I'm grateful to have been a part of this project to help ease their minds. I think that really sums it up. I have just done a whistle stop, so if you want to ask me any questions about any of those themes afterwards, please do.